what we want in golf is more mobility. That mobility comes from not only stretching, but also activation. So the muscles around a joint, they all communicate with one another in order to move that joint. And the better the communication is between those muscles, the better the joint moves and the more mobile the joint is. There are certainly restrictions in the body that are typical of being a human being and working at a desk that can be very problematic to the golf swing. And those things need to be addressed through flexibility training. And that can be certainly part of the warm-up. But a larger portion of that warm-up needs to be targeted towards increasing the firing rate of our glutes, of our core, and of our scapular stabilizers in particular. And those muscles that help pull the joints through their full range of motion, and those are the muscles that are typically underactive in most people. I hate to say this, but the flexibility training comes prior to the golf. And then when it comes to game time, it's all about activation.
Please stay tuned to the end of this episode to hear how you can save 50% on our guest's golf fitness program and how you can win a brand new customized putter from our friends at SEEMORE Putters. This is Golf Smarter number 734. Keeping your body golf ready when you can't leave the house with world-class fitness instructor Thomas Malchow.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Greene.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Thomas.
Thanks for having me, Fred.
Thank you very much for being available, because this is a topic that is so important right now, since most of us, many of us, are stuck at home. There's a shelter in place. There's a terrible pandemic going on around the world, and we want to go out and play golf. But we can't, even though golf is kind of like a perfect thing to be doing right now. A lot of golf courses have been closing because of this, just to keep everybody safe. Where are you based?
I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Okay.
And we're having the same sort of issues up here, of course.
Yeah, well, it's global. And so are there orders for shelter in place where you live?
There are. The terminology is a little different, but essentially it's the
Canada,
same.
Of course it is.
We've been asked to stay home as much as possible, not go out unless it's absolutely essential for groceries and medicine and that sort of stuff. So it sounds like we're living the same sort of experience that you and most everyone else in the world is right now.
And how have you been dealing with it? What are you doing?
Well, for me, it hasn't actually changed my routine too much, because my business is all online and I spend most of my day working on the computer. What it has changed, though, is, of course, is me being able to get out and golf and get out and go for walks and that sort of thing. But fortunately, I've been able to keep busy. I know that if I didn't have the work that I need to do still, it would be very, very challenging. Speaking with my cousins and family, and they've just been, crushing Netflix. And unfortunately, that's not a problem for me.
Yeah. Hey, you watch anything good? Find anything you discover anything new that you like? Any recommendations?
No, I haven't. But
I'm sorry.
My cousin just told me that he's finished Netflix, so he's looking for something new.
My son called from college one day and he said, "I'm so bored." It's like, "What's going on?" He goes, "I just finished the internet." Oh yeah, you sound bored. You're in college. You're not supposed to be bored. And have you, I guess you can't see your clients. You have to do stuff online.
The clients that I see in person, I have transitioned to online, but primarily, for the most part, the vast majority of my work is all online anyway.
Okay.
So my clients are all over the world. And we usually connect over Zoom and that sort of stuff. So it really hasn't changed my business very much at all.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm happy for you. And hope that, you don't lose any clients or friends or family.
Yeah. Obviously the financial, consequence of all this is a concern for a lot of people. And I just hope that, everybody gets through this safe and financially secure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So hard. But tell us what's been going on at your website there and what you've been promoting through this.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I thought it was important for us to have this conversation, is because just because we're stuck at home here, I mean, obviously we're going to be at home probably for at least a few more weeks, if not months on and off. And just because we're at home doesn't mean that we can't continue to work on our golf game. And in fact,
Absolutely.
if we take this time to work on our posture, we can actually have a boost in our performance when we get back to golf. And that's because posture influences our performance much more than people realize. It's the foundation of all our movements. It's the foundation of our swing. If we have bad posture, we're going to have bad movement, which means we're going to have a swing that's full of compensations. And in fact, you can take a look at somebody's posture and based off their postural dysfunctions, make assumptions, pretty predictable assumptions on what type of issues they'll have with their swing. And the reverse is true as well. If somebody's struggling with say a hook or a slice, that can be because of bad posture. And if you fix the posture, you fix or remove the restriction, you can actually have the boost in the performance. So that's what I recommend people do over the next little while is work on their posture.
Well, that is a great topic. I think that we can spend an entire episode talking about things that you can do to stay golf ready. If you can't get out, you can putt on your rug. You can't take full swings most of the time, but to be able to stay golf ready, keep your body in golf ready condition during a time where you have to stay home, I think it's a great topic.
Absolutely. And before we dive into the specific things that people can do, I just want to talk a little bit more or give people a better understanding of what posture is, because it's more sophisticated than people realize. And it involves.
I'm kind of surprised that you want to focus on the posture part, but as my lower back is feeling a little bad right now because I'm kind of hanging in here. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, most people think of posture as, their grandmother telling them to sit up straight at the dinner table or something, right? But it's a lot more complex with that. And we'll start with the muscles, okay? So every muscle has a specific length and tension that it performs best at. And by best, I mean highest force output, greatest coordination, and fastest reflexes. And the reason for that has to do with neuromuscular physiology and cross-bridging between actin and myosin. We won't get into that, of course, but it's important to understand that there's scientific reasons for that. If a muscle's length or tension becomes altered in any way, its force output goes down, its coordination goes down, and its reflexes slow down. And that's because the physiology and structure of the muscle changes in a negative way. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of us spend a large portion of our day sitting, especially now, but even prior to this. And because of that, certain muscles in our body become adaptively shortened. For example, the muscles in the front of our hips, our hip flexors, right? So when muscles become short, they usually also become overactive. So that means we have short and overactive hip flexors, and that describes how the muscle's length tension relationship has become altered. And this sets off. I
understand what you mean by overactive.
So overactive describes how much or how many excitatory impulses the muscle receives from your brain, essentially. Right. So the brain is really just really aware of that muscle, and the muscle is very tense. So we can think of the muscles being tight. Right. So usually when people talk about tight muscles, it's actually overactivity. It's just too many impulses going to it. Yeah.
Okay.
And these short and overactive muscles set off a chain reaction, because if the muscle in front of our hip is short, that means the muscle behind our hip extensor, is going to be long, right? It has to be.
Sure.
And when muscles get pulled long, they become underactive, meaning they don't get enough impulses from our nervous system. Okay. And this is a problem because the primary hip extensor is the gluteus maximus. And I think probably most people understand how important the gluteus maximus is for the golf swing. It's actually extremely important just for everyday life. It's our primary mode for walking or walking upstairs, standing up, all sorts of things, right? And so if the muscle's underactive, it's a huge problem. This isn't just occurring around our hips, by the way. It's occurring around all of our joints, okay? And the dysfunction that starts in our muscles will spread to our nervous system because, as I just said, overactive muscles take neural drive away from underactive muscles.
Right.
That means when you move the joint, the way the nervous system recruits the muscles around the joint becomes altered. And this creates movement impairments, which create instability, inflammation, pain, and injury. Not only that, these movement impairments are also inefficient, meaning that you become less athletic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, the fact that the nervous system is recruiting these muscles in an altered way means that the joint also gets pulled out of alignment, which reduces the mobility further and sets off this sort of vicious cycle. So the dysfunction that started in our muscle or in our muscles spread to our nervous system and then to our skeletal system.
Wow.
Yeah. And people do all sorts of things to try to get out of that vicious cycle. It just keeps going round and around and around. But the problem with that is, like, for example, if we think of a warped bicycle wheel, if we want to make that wheel round again, we need to strategically loosen some spokes and tighten others, because if we just loosen all of them, the wheel will remain warped.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Conversely, if we tighten all the spokes, the wheel will remain warped. And the same is true of our posture. We can't stretch our way out of dysfunction. And the reason for that is some of our muscles are, as I mentioned, long and underactive. If we just stretch all of our muscles, they will become longer and more underactive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, some people think that they can go to the gym and start working out and that will fix their posture, but some of their muscles are short and overactive. And if we activate muscles that are already short and overactive, they're going to become shorter and more overactive. And again, that just reinforces that dysfunction. And so if we want to improve our posture, we need to know which muscles to lengthen and which muscles to shorten, right? Now, that's a bit of a problem for some people, because how are you going to know how to do that? Where are you going to get that information from? Most people don't know how to do that, right? On my website, trainfully.com, I have a ton of information, free resources showing people how they can do that, because it seems that certain muscles are prone to adaptive shortening and overactivity, while other muscles are susceptible to lengthening and inhibition. And in fact, 90% of the population get the same dysfunction or the same postural impairments to various degrees. So we can implement a corrective strategy to address those dysfunctions, and that will improve the performance and the health of the vast majority of the population.
Wow. I'm going to take a quick time out. And but before I do that, I just want to say, you mentioned it, trainfully.com, TRAINFULY, just one L.
Correct.
Trainfully.com.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Thomas, thanks for waiting. In listening to what you were just talking about and the stretching and stuff, it just brings to mind, is it a waste of time to be stretching before a round of golf? Are we stretching the wrong things? Or do we even need to bother?
That is a very good question. The best thing that we can do to improve performance prior to a round of golf is actually activate our muscles, right? So what we want to do is we want to have a very specific pre-round warm-up that takes our body through a routine that slowly starts to increase the firing rate of muscles. So firing rate describes how quickly a muscle contracts, right? So when we stretch muscles, we inhibit them a little bit, right? We want to be activating muscles before we play golf. And again, on my website or on my Instagram page at Elastic Golfer, I have a lot of information about how to do that. But to answer your question, no, that the best thing to do prior to golf is actually activation exercises.
Okay. What are some It's interesting because a couple episodes ago we had Josh Zander on, and I remember him saying that you loosen up to hit balls. You don't hit balls to loosen up. Yeah,
and I think one of the things that is really probably a lot of people don't understand is what we want in sports and what we want in golf is more mobility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that mobility comes from not only stretching, but also activation. So the muscles around a joint, they all communicate with one another in order to move that joint. And the better the communication is between those muscles, the better the joint moves and the more mobile the joint is, right? So if we just have a general stretching routine before playing golf, we're just going to stretch all the muscles. There are certainly restrictions in the body that are typical of being a human being and, working at a desk and these sorts of things that can be very problematic to the golf swing. And that those things need to be addressed through flexibility training. And that can be certainly part of the warm-up. But a larger portion of that warm-up needs to be targeted towards increasing the firing rate of our glutes, of our core, and of our scapular stabilizers in particular. And those muscles that help pull the joints through their full range of motion. And those are the muscles that are typically underactive in most people. Like I said, we talked about the glutes being underactive because we spend so much time sitting. Another issue with sitting is our core becomes underactive, as well as the muscles that control our shoulder blades. And the muscles that control our shoulder blades are also extremely important for our golf swing. So again, what I focus on with my clients, and this is what I do with my professional clients as well, is it's kind of, I hate to say this, but the flexibility training comes prior to the golf, right? That's what you should be doing during the work as part of your normal routine. And then when it comes to game time, it's all about activation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are some things that we can do? And obviously we're talking about stretching before a round, and the focus of this conversation should be what we should be doing at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, these are the same things. And
great.
So I have we'll call it an algorithm, but basically it's just a very specific order that I do things in. And this has been outlined in the scientific literature to be very beneficial. And again, this is what I do with professional golfers. Mm-hmm. During the week, we have routines that we do. Okay, so there's three main postural dysfunctions outlined in the scientific literature. They're called, people call them by different names, but we're going to call them upper body dysfunction, lumbopelvic hip complex dysfunction, and lower extremity dysfunction. Each one of those dysfunctions has a specific set of muscle imbalances, nervous system imbalances, and joint imbalances associated with it. Okay. So based off of that, let's say with our upper body, when we do the routine to correct the posture in upper body, we start by inhibiting our overactive muscles. And again, we know which muscles these are because 90% of the population get the same dysfunction to varying degrees. So we use a foam roller or a baseball, lacrosse ball, whatever you have, to apply pressure to this set of muscles. And the pressure applied by the device that you're using, whether it's a foam roller or a ball, initiates a reflex inside that muscle, which encourages the muscle to relax. Okay. So now that the muscle's relaxed, what we want to do is focus our attention on the joint, because when we have an overactive muscle, every muscle in our body crosses at least one joint. And if the muscle is overactive, it will pull the joint that it crosses out of alignment. Okay, and that becomes a problem because it's going to reduce mobility and it's going to interfere with your movement. So after we've inhibited the muscle, we want to use gentle mobilization techniques to improve the mobility and the movement of that joint. Okay, and that's actually quite important. And these aren't aggressive techniques at all. These are very, very simple techniques. Things like just, I call them open books, and you can find them again on my Instagram page. Just simple, like laying on your side and opening up your chest and reaching back with your arm will mobilize your thoracic spine. It will mobilize your SI joint and your low back. These are very simple things that anybody can do. Okay. Right. After we mobilize the joint, then what we do is we lengthen the short muscles. Now, usually these are the same muscles we inhibited with the foam roller, but not always. Okay. And we do the stretching in a very particular way because, again, remember, muscles perform best at a very specific length. So we don't want to just stretch to make muscles as long as possible. we're looking to make them a certain length. So the stretches are done in a very particular way to make sure that we don't over lengthen the muscle. So these aren't like yoga type stretches. They're not aggressive. They're very simple. Anybody can do them. Okay. So after we've done that, we turn our attention to the long and underactive muscles, and we use isolated activation to activate those muscles and shorten them because they're too long. We want them a little bit shorter. And again, these exercises are done in a very particular way. They're a little hard to describe over this type of medium because although they're simple to do, there's some, little techniques that we need to use to make sure they're done correctly. For example,
well, wait a minute. You know what? You better think about that for a minute because we're going to take another time out.
Okay.
We'll come back. I'm going to make you describe them.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So we'll be back right after this. You continue to talk about the glutes. Every time I've had back issues and I go to see someone about it, they're going, "Oh, your hamstrings are so tight." Yeah. So you've not talked about hamstrings yet.
No, I haven't. The hamstrings are a unique muscle in your body. Okay. So we talked about how muscles, when they become dysfunctional, they adopt an altered length tension relationship. They become short and overactive, or they become long and underactive. The hamstrings are a unique muscle because they tend to become long and overactive. Right? So then what do you do with a muscle that's long and overactive? You don't want to stretch it because it's long. The tightness you feel in your hamstrings typically, this isn't for everybody, but it's for the majority of people, is neurological. It's not mechanical. The muscle itself is not too short. It's overactive. So you need to inhibit it. So use a foam roller or a ball to do that. Now, the thing with the hamstrings is I don't think most people realize this. There's 3 hamstrings. Right? They think of the hamstrings as the muscle in the back of your leg. There's 3 of them, 2 of which are medial. These are semitendinosus and semimembranosus. 1 is lateral, biceps femoris. So they all start at the top of your hip, the bottom of your pelvis. They travel down your leg. 2 of them, the 2 semis, semitendinosus and semimembranosus, attach on the inside just below your knee, where biceps femoris attaches laterally on the outside of you. This is why we didn't bring it up, Fred.
Oh, don't look at my face and think that you're not connected.
Now, if we're going to get really technical here, and this is, again, I do all this automatically with the clients and in the programs that I make, but generally speaking, semitendinosus and semimembranosus become long and underactive. Biceps femoris becomes long and overactive, so you inhibit biceps femoris, but you don't stretch it. Okay, so why does biceps femoris, or why do the hamstrings, we'll just refer to them as the hamstrings, Please. Why do they become long and overactive? Well, the reason for that has to do with the fact that our glutes have become underactive, and the glutes are the primary hip extensor. So we lose some force production for hip extension.
Great.
And our nervous system then creates altered recruitment patterns, and part of that involves sending more impulses to the hamstrings because the hamstrings also extend your hip. And this is called synergistic dominance. And it sets up a lot of inflammation, a lot of dysfunction, and you end up injured, and it decreases your performance. Basically, your body's come up with a compensatory pattern to get you through normal everyday life, but in doing so, it sets you up for injuries, decreased performance, and increased wear and tear on your joints. So does that answer your question?
I think so. But I do want to challenge you again here and have you do your best job to describe these stretches that we should be doing.
Right. Well, I'll do the activation because, one of the main things that we want to do, especially since we're sitting so much, is activate our glutes, right?
Yep.
So one of the exercises I see people do quite often is they lay on their tummy and they extend their hip and they squeeze their glute, and that's to activate their gluteus maximus, right? You've probably seen this one, hip extension. The problem with that is that our glutes are underactive. So we've lost some force production for hip extension, and our body's recruited our hamstrings to do the job instead. So by doing that exercise, just as how I described it, we're just reinforcing that synergistic dominance of having the hamstrings extend our hip. That's going to be not going to be beneficial to our health nor to our performance. So we need to inhibit our hamstrings when we extend our hip. And we can do that by contracting our quad. So our quadriceps and our hamstrings both cross our knee, right? If we contract our quad and extend our knee forcefully, that will inhibit our hamstrings. And if we keep our knee extended as we extend our hip, that will ensure that we get more neural drive to our glutes and less to our hamstrings.
Okay. How?
Okay.
How do we do it?
How do we do it? Well, we lay on our stomach the same way that we see the exercise done quite often. Lay on your stomach. But as you extend your hip, what I want you to focus on is also extending your knee, contracting your quad, quite forcefully, and keeping your quad contracted as you extend your hip and lift your leg off the floor, right? And then really trying to mentally get into the fact that you're trying to use your glutes. So you squeeze your glutes, you squeeze your quad, and that way we ensure that we get more neural drive to our glutes and less to our hamstrings because our quad is taking the neural drive away from our hamstrings at the knee. Okay. It sounds very complicated when we're just describing it verbally like this, but when we're doing it or when I show people how to do it on my videos, it makes a lot of sense. People can see what I'm doing and it makes more sense. And this is, we do this whenever you have an isolated activation exercise that you're doing for a muscle, you're going to have overactive synergists like the hamstrings that need to be inhibited. So you have to do certain things to turn off other muscles as you're trying to activate the one that you're targeting. Things like lifting your big toe as you're trying to do a toe raise to make sure that the muscle that normally has become overactive doesn't kick in. So you want to inhibit that guy as you're targeting the muscle that you're after. Right. And the same with the muscles around your shoulders and even in around your neck to make sure that you get your, one of the issues that a lot of people have is a forward head posture where their head sort of jots out and the muscles on the side of their neck, their sternocleidomastoids become overactive. But we want to strengthen the muscles our deep neck flexors to pull our chin back, but we don't want to activate the guys on the side in the process. And so there's little techniques that we do to make sure that that doesn't happen, that we don't reinforce this dysfunction that we're already in.
And it brings it back to posture. Exactly,
posture. Posture is a lot more sophisticated than people realize. It is the most impactful variable in your performance. These short and overactive muscles that cause the whole problem in the first place, that come about because we're sitting so much or in some sort of static posture. These muscles, they make us slow, they make us weak, and they make us uncoordinated. And people, this brings me back, this is one of the things that I want to talk about as well, is if you have these postural dysfunctions and you have these short and overactive muscles, and then you're going to the gym and you're lifting weights, like a lot of people think that their glutes aren't underactive because they can squat or deadlift hundreds of pounds. But they might not be, but I've had hockey players, for example, in the NHL that can squat 300 pounds, but their glutes are underactive. Underactive muscles can still be strong, they just fire too slowly. So when they go to do the squat, if you have underactive glutes, the hamstrings and the muscles in your low back, your erector spinae kick in instead, and they extend your hip, and you're not getting the effect that you want in your glutes. And people think, well, what's the big deal? I can still lift the weight, but you're not lifting it efficiently. And if you want to improve your performance, the focus needs to be on improving the efficiency of your movement. And you do that by making sure the correct muscles are firing at the same or at the correct time. And again, that's all posture.
And what are the consequences? Even though it feels right and you don't think you have a problem, but there's got to be consequences for this, right?
There is. It causes compensations, and compensations pull capacity out of your body. So this concept of capacity is actually an important one as well. So every tissue in your body has a capacity. And what I mean by that is how much that tissue can endure over a given amount of time before it becomes injured, right? We can think of capacity as being like a commodity. It's like money. Everything you do is either putting capacity into your body or taking it out. there's a limit to your capacity. And if you're lifting weights or if you're playing golf and you have these compensations, that means you're using up your capacity, and eventually you'll become injured or you'll get little nagging injuries and you won't be able to play or practice as much. The whole point of your workouts, if we call them that, should be to increase your capacity, not to use it up.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Oh, excellent. It's great stuff. Hey, I know that you didn't want to talk about this much, but I'm going to bring it out anyway. Tell me about your golf fitness program that you have online.
Yeah, so I have a golf fitness program, and this is the actual program that I use with my professional golfers. It's a 3-month program that fixes your posture. It makes you more coordinated, makes you faster, and it makes your swing much more quicker and much more accurate. Again, this is the program that I use with professional golfers. It's a periodized program. What I've done is I've created a discount code for your listeners.
Really?
Golf Smarter is the discount code. So if they go to the website and they want to purchase the program at checkout, if they enter Golf Smarter, they'll get a 50% discount and get the program for $40.
Oh, wow. That's very generous of you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And it's a 3-month program. I mean,
it's a 3-month program
for $40. What are you
for $40? And
you're not getting anything for $40 that's going to last 3 months.
And honestly, this is the program that I use with professional golfers.
Wow.
It's the most comprehensive golf fitness program out there. It addresses your muscles. It makes them stronger, faster, more coordinated. It increases your reflexes, increases your neuromuscular coordination. It's a lot of fun. As I said, these aren't aggressive techniques that I'm doing. The purpose of these routines is not to make you exhausted and reinforce movement impairments. It's to make you feel better and increase your capacity. And the whole point of this is to increase your capacity so that you can play and practice more often when we get back to golf. It also increases your golf-specific athleticism so that you're, like I said, faster and more coordinated.
Amazing. That's fabulous. Again, the website is trainfully.com, TRAINFULY, trainfully.com. And you post a lot of videos on your Instagram account at Elastic Golfer.
That is correct. And if anybody has any questions, I mean, I'm just sitting around working all day, and I know pretty much everybody else is. I love chatting about this stuff, so feel free to reach out, send me a message through Instagram or through the website, and we'll have a conversation.
Fabulous. That's a great offer. It's very generous of you. Great talking to you again. Thank you so much for being available, and please stay safe, stay indoors, play golf. Be good, man.
Thank you, Fred. You as well.
Yeah, I know I committed to a March with Manzoni, and technically today is March 31st. But with everyone affected by the pandemic, I hope you agree that an episode on keeping in shape as we stay safe is appropriate. But we actually do have one more episode with Tony Manzoni, and that's going to be Golf Smarter Mulligans number 50 that was also released today. In this conversation with Tony from 2015, we talk about making sure that your intent and your performance on the golf course are in sync together. That's our sister podcast from the archives of 400-plus hours of Golf Smarter called Golf Smarter Mulligans, and you can find it wherever you get your favorite podcast. Golf Smarter Mulligans has been brought to you by twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Well, I hope you took advantage of the generous discounts you've been offered by them, because the deals we've been talking about for more than a year are now complete. But twoguyswithgolfballs.com is still around for you to order premium used golf balls that are closer to a brand new ball than anything you'll randomly find on the golf course. Each ball they receive from vendors across the country are hand-inspected, sanitized, and graded for quality in 3 categories. If you want a ball that is indistinguishable from a brand new one, but it is half the price, make sure to order Eagle Quality from twoguyswithgolfballs.com. And as we complete our March with Manzoni, I want to remind you one more time that Tony's book, The Lost Fundamental, One Simple Move, Better Golf Forever, is available in both paperback and Kindle formats, yet some of you have reported that you can't find it on Amazon. Not a problem. Adjust your search for the co-author, who was also guest on episode 676 in February 2019 when we announced that this book was available on Amazon. His name is Paul Cervantes, Cervantes. Paul Cervantes is the co-author, and if you search under his name, you will find the book. I'll leave a link in today's show notes and on our blog post at golfsmarter.com. And if you want the video, too, of The Lost Fundamental, then please click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com and let me know who you are, or just write to golfsmarterpodcast at gmail.com, and I'll send you information on how to get private access to the video online. And for the most comprehensive information on Tony Manzoni that you'll find anywhere on the web, please go to golfsmarter.com/Tony. We've got videos there as well. And video from actually the conversation in this week's Mulligans episode is a complete video, so you can watch that there too. I got to tell you, I received an email this morning from Golf Aficionado magazine suggesting that we, quote, take the entire family on your next golf vacation. You're kidding, right? I just cracked up when I saw that. But based on what you've been telling me, golfers want nothing more than to get back on the golf course. And when we get the green light, I'm sure that we'd like to reschedule that buddy trip that had to be canceled this spring. Probably the last thing you're looking for is planning even more extended time with the family. Just a hunch. So even though it's harder to get out and play golf if your state or country has put a shelter-in-place order for you to stay at home, it doesn't mean that you're not interested in helpful golf content or great golf gear, right? I'm really happy to announce that for our third consecutive year, we're giving away awesome golf prizes and want to make sure you win what you want. This year, I've already received commitments from some of our guests and partners to provide products in multiples so that you have a chance to win that prize again. Here's where we've got to start. A new high-heat hybrid from Dean Knuth of Knuth Golf. We'll be giving away brand new golf shoes called Squares that took the PGA Merchandise Show by storm this year. You'll win a dozen balls of your choice from twoguyswithgolfballs.com. You'll even get a chance to win a year-long membership for the GolfLogix app. Registration is now open at golfsmarter.com, and your deadline to enter for our first prize is Sunday, April 12th at midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern. And that first prize we're giving away is a brand new customized putter from SEEMORE Putters. I love my SEEMORE putter and really want to put one in your hands. We'll announce the winner of the putter on episode number 736 that will be published on April 14th. So again, your deadline to enter is Sunday, April 12th at midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern. So click on the prize giveaway banner at the top of the homepage at golfsmarter.com, or you can go directly to golfsmarter.com/giveaway2020. I'll make sure to put a link in today's show notes, and keep your eyes open for a new round of emails from me with a recap of our March with Manzoni, links to the giveaway, and more. Thanks for your support during this time. I hope that you are staying sane and being safe. Please follow at Golf Smarter on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Read about our weekly content in LinkedIn, or if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for me, I love hearing from you and hope that you are being safe. Just click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.